I got to tell you, I mean, it's February 12th. I think if particularly the battleground state polls, which Biden is right now down in 6 out of 7 of them, and several of them by like 5 to 10 points. I think if that doesn't turn around, and their internal polling, I would guess is showing same, if not worse. I would not put out of the question an LBJ type of situation here where he drops out in March or April.
After Super Tuesday. If they get enough delegates, then after Super Tuesday, they'll have enough delegates to usher in whoever they want with all of Biden's delegates.
But where did they get?
Because I also don't think it was an accident that Kamala Harris, who they usually keep in witness protection, they had her go out
as well.
They had her come out to do a big, she was aghast at this special counsel report. I don't think that was a coincidence. I would watch if they have Kamala Harris come out more for things, because they've already blessed Gavin Newsom running kind of a standby shadow campaign. I think, at this point, it's really up to Joe Biden, Obama, and people who you would think care for him to say, don't ruin your legacy. I mean, to us, it's not a great legacy.
His legacy's done.
No, but I mean, to the establishment, because they think he's great. Don't, bow out gracefully, call it what you want, just whatever reason. And then they have to do the gymnastics of trying to deal with the identity politics machine they've created, because they definitely don't want to run with Kamala Harris. But how would they even maneuver around that without? I mean, I think black women are the bedrock of the Democratic Party. I think they're going to have a problem if they politically shank the potentially first female black president.
I hope they put up Kamala Harris. That would just be beautiful to watch.
Well, you try explaining to me, anybody who has an objective mind, you try explaining to me how this person, forget that is going to win in November. I don't know how this person is going to survive another 5 years. Here we go.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. And it was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, why, how long are you back for?
Okay. Isn't he naming someone that hasn't been the person in like forever? Isn't he naming someone that's dead?
Mitterrand is deceased. So he was clearly referring to a time where he was probably in the U.S. Senate that he remembers that was having some type of interaction.
He's having conversations with dead people.
But of course, now we have.
I got to tell you, there's the alternative theory here. Jen, I'm not. Were you at the Women's March by chance?
Do I look like I would put a vagina on my head and walk up the street to you?
I don't know. Crazier things have happened. But no, I got to tell you, I'm not so sure the Democratic Party is not seeing money here and saying, well,
I agree.
If we lose, Resistance 2.0 might be even more of a moneymaker than 1.0, meaning, Trump, unencumbered, he could only serve one more term by the Constitution, but I think he would challenge that. But the think tanks, the fundraising emails, MSNBC. I mean, they would be thriving under a second Trump presidency. So I'm not totally convinced. If your main interest was winning, I mean,
we're going to do a hell of a lot of winning. But you
see, they don't care about winning. They care about capital winning. So capital wins either way. Like Nancy Pelosi prefers having Trump there than her type, not just her, but like that person, because why would they not? Then they can really be Mick resistance. They could really do nothing and fundraise. And that's the beauty of it for them. They don't really care. They proved that they preferred Trump to Bernie.
This is how we're totally making America great again in 24. Let's keep going.
And how is President Biden ever going to convince the 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996?
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
What is
We're
the
going
rabbit
to
hole?
Go ahead.
He said he talked to Mitterrand.
Go ahead. You saw the president in Vegas, in California. You've seen the president in South Carolina. You saw him in Michigan.
Yes, and he's incompetent in all those places.
Go ahead.
I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate.
So he convinced the president of Mexico to open up the gate for the people in Gaza to get out of.
Oh, so he was referring to Egypt, is what he's referring. So he's referencing Egypt as Mexico. Okay.
That's not a gaffe. That's I'm not there anymore.
He's just, this is absurd.
And so,
but I would also say, as cringeworthy as that is, I got to say, I mean, whether he's not all there or not, the moral cowardice to stand up there as the most powerful person on earth, and the best you could say is, I think it's over the top.
Right.
Can you imagine like saying, yeah, Crystal Knock, that was a little over the top.
They went a little,
or name your genocide, Rwanda or the Holocaust or whatever. I mean, that's the most he could even bring himself to do, because obviously condemning Israel is apparently just impossible in American politics. So
that's our overlord. Yeah. I can criticize America, but I can't criticize Israel. So that tells me that that's who's in charge.
Pretty
right.
much.
And listen, my wife's Israeli. She's got family in Israel. I know people in Israel. I'm not against the Israeli people. I'm not calling for them to be, banished from earth. But a spade is a spade. And what is going on is the definition of genocide. And honestly, I don't see it having an end, because you have Bibi Netanyahu. He's not doing this as a war as much as to keep his Orthodox, coalition intact, so he stays in power. Because if he doesn't stay in power, he's facing his own criminal issues in Israel and possible prison time. So he's going to do this for as long as it lasts, because his right flank in his coalition, which is the Orthodox Jews, are like, Israel's version of like the Oath Keepers, or lunacy. So it's just, I think, between the cognitive issues, and it's not that I feel for him, but this is not unique. It happens to a lot of older people, not every older person, but with older people, you lose your memory, cognitive issues. Sometimes it's more than that, early Alzheimer's, dementia, what have you. He should have care and go off to retirement, not be doing this. And you have to think they have him doing this because in the DNC and, whoever is running the show here, they believe this at least has a better chance of winning than Kamala Harris. At this point, I'm not so sure about that. As bad as Kamala Harris is.
To me, this is like elder abuse.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean, he does not seem coherent.
Let's finish it.
I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard, really hard.
As it relates to the names and what he was trying to, to say, look, many people, elected officials, many people, they can misspeak sometimes, right? And look, let me give you a couple of examples. On Sunday, Speaker Johnson said Iran instead of Israel. This happens. Joe is not here. There are many times I call Joe from USA Today Michael. I'm sure he doesn't appreciate that. He doesn't. I've apologized to him many times. Now I call him JoJo because the president calls him JoJo. And also Sean Hannity himself has said Jason Chaffetz when he met Matt Gaetz. I mean, it happens. It really happens.
The level of desperation is really showing. But I just don't know how you can continue down this rabbit hole of thinking that you can really hoodwink the American people into not just proving that once and for all, it isn't about, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to turn America into fascism. The corporate state already exists. Like, this isn't something different. And
I remember when White House press secretary was a badass. That's what I remember. What the hell is that? Like, that was pretty pitiful. She looked like a substitute teacher trying to convince a class that they need to behave. Just very pathetic.
Also, from just a strategic point of view, Donald Trump is not exactly without flaws in his speaking. If you had a forget that they're all corporatists, but let's say you were running Gavin Newsom or somebody that could speak. You could actually prosecute the case against Trump because Trump is conflating. I mean, he said Nikki Haley was responsible for Capitol security on January 6th.
Right.
He meant Nancy Pelosi. He said when he speaks at his events, a lot of times he sounds a little not as bad as Biden, but getting there. So if you had somebody coherent, maybe a little bit younger, I mean, just as terrible in policy, but I'm just talking optically, you might be able to go after Donald Trump for sounding, not in his prime. But if you then have Joe Biden, it makes Donald Trump sound like, Shakespeare. So it really is. I wish I fully knew the answer other than if it was Gretchen, Biden wanted Gretchen Whitmer as his vice president. His people pushed him for Kamala Harris to solidify the black vote. So if it was Gretchen Whitmer, I actually think they would have already pushed Biden overboard and got him to bow out. I think the fact that it's Harris, and maybe Biden himself, because reports are, they're not exactly, Cheech and Chong. I think Biden might
this far. I really don't. Every time I watch Kamala Harris, I feel like she can't form a coherent sentence.
That's all the more reason why they are together.
But yes, but what's so weird? Okay, but she was the attorney or state attorney. She was a litigator. Like, it just seems to me so strange that she is so incapable of forming a coherent sentence. Is it just that she's so internally vapid that if they don't give her the right script, that she can't exude? I don't know. I don't know what it is.
She's very similar to me, actually, of Hillary Clinton's run in 2008. How she had to find herself, the whole crying in New Hampshire. But before that, she was very robotic, stiff, just not good on the campaign stump. Kamala Harris, there's vibes of that. She's very good when she's talking about putting people in prison or, accountability. But for a little humanness, there's not much there. So she was the Attorney General of California, which is not exactly, a full-on campaign, having to go out there and win hearts and minds. So I don't know, but all I do know is for the good of the country, I genuinely hope they bring in somebody else, because I don't want Trump to be president again. Sure, I agree with you, Jen. We already have a corporate state, but I think Trump unencumbered, parting himself would be a bad thing. And at the moment, we're just giving that on a silver platter.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.